Welcome, Internet, to the companion of the companion podcast, the Megavision Sideshow. This is the sideshow where we discuss whatever we want, be it movies, a certain game, a certain genre, something. This is our chance to kind of ramble on about something not always directly Sega-related, but something we're still passionate about. So, I am your host, the recruiter of the Starfighter, Scotty Moe. With me today, he might be a Ryland spy, is Corey.
Hey.
And over there fixing the Death Blossom is Sketchcraft.
Hey, what's up?
And that guy who hands Zer the spiky stick is Chris.
What is up, Starfighter?
Hello. Greetings, Starfighters. You've been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zer and the Kodan Armada. So we're talking about the Last Starfighter this week, and I believe Chris over there has some factoids to give us and lay down the groundwork of what this movie is and why we should care about it.
Yeah, so obviously, you guys know I'm a huge Last Starfighter fan, so I've been waiting for this one to kind of come around and get a chance to do this. So I'm super excited about this episode. But yeah, I think what we want to do just to kick things off is let's talk about some of the principal actors in this movie. So it stars Lance Guest, who plays Alex Rogan, and he also has like a different character, which is kind of called Beta Alex. So Lance Guest, he previously worked on Halloween 2, and that's actually kind of how he got this role in Last Starfighter. He would go on to also act in Jaws Revenge, and he was also on the Jericho TV show, which I don't remember him being on, but I was a huge fan of Jericho back in the day. But going through his IMDb, I noticed that, and it kind of jumped out at me.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Jaws the Revenge where a shark roars?
Oh my!
Is that what that is? Yeah,
maybe.
I've got a history with that movie that I won't bring up in this podcast, but yes.
I don't know if I've seen Jaws Revenge.
Is that the second or third one?
Jaws Revenge is the fourth one with Michael Caine.
Great, shows how much I've seen.
That Michael Caine refuses to acknowledge he was in.
Oh, whatever.
Chris, you played the Jaws game on the NES?
Yes.
That's Jaws 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yay.
So,
right.
sidetracking.
Hey, which is worse, Jaws 4 the movie or Jaws 4 the game, right? Like,
I don't know. I've only seen the game played, and I obviously have not seen Jaws the Revenge, so I can't comment, but probably...
Which one's recently given me money, so...
His love interest in this movie is Maggie, played by Catherine Mary Stewart. She was previously on Days of Our Lives and Night of the Comet.
Yeah, she looks like a soap opera.
Yeah, she was. But she's got a great look for this
Weekend at Bernie's?
for this role, and she was on Weekend at Bernie's after this.
What?
Yeah, I don't remember her in that one either. I think maybe she was one of the girlfriends. I'm trying to think back. It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
No
idea. Future sideshow episode.
Yeah.
Centauri is played by Robert Preston, who's been was a long time a character actor for many years. He would play in The Music Man and Victor Victoria. Post credits after this movie was his last role was Outrage. It was a TV movie, and sadly he passed away in March of 1987. So this was one of his last movies he actually did.
He was a little goofy in this one.
He was, yeah. He kind of hammed it up, which was not
salesman.
Typically his role in a lot of those movies. But I loved Centauri in this. So I think Robert Preston was great. And lastly, Grig, who's Alex Rogan's kind of a sidekick, alien sidekick when they're in outer space. It's played by Dan O'Herlihy, and he was also in a Halloween movie before this. He was in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which was the one movie that everyone was mad about because it didn't have Michael Myers in it, and he was like kind of the evil like CEO or president of the company in that movie. Yeah. Did you guys see that?
Yeah,
that's actually the only Halloween movie I've seen.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
It's a good movie. I love it.
I worked for this t-shirt company called Sea Life, and they got all these weird licenses, and they're like, we got Halloween. I'm like, all right. Halloween 3. I'm like, Bob, damn it, you know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like
The one thing
don't
I
tease
can
me.
say about
Yeah.
Halloween 3, though, is that it has some I love the designs of the masks. The mask designs are really cool, and you could do some really neat stuff with those. Because I've seen some awesome T-shirts.
That's what I wish, because the original premise of the Halloween was supposed to be Michael Myers was supposed to be only in the first one, and then each sequel was supposed to be a totally different story. And I really wish that was something that I wished Stranger Things would have done, kind of like an American Horror Story thing, where it's the same actors in every season, but it's a different storyline. But that's not how that went. So,
oh well.
And so Dan would go on to do RoboCop and RoboCop 2. I think also playing a villain in those movies as well.
Oh, hold on. I love RoboCop. So let's see.
And he passed away in February 2005. So I think he continued acting well up until then, I believe.
He's just credited as the old man in RoboCop 1 and 2.
Yeah, I can't remember. A lot of these guys, I don't remember their specific roles other than Halloween 3. And obviously Lance Guest in Halloween 2. Remembering him.
Every time you say Lance Guest, I'm just thinking of Lance Bass from NSYNC.
He looks like he may have been able, if he were, like this age back in like the late 90s or early 2000s, I could have seen him being someone in NSYNC.
Yeah, he's got those eyes.
those eyes. So let's get to some.
So we didn't really even say what the movie actually is yet. So it's a video. We'll go with the summary or the overview of it. It's a video game expert Alex Rogan finds himself transported to another planet after conquering the Last Starfighter video game, only to find out it was just a test. He was recruited to join the team of best starfighters to defend their world from the attack. Just the attack. That's a weird way to end that description, but that's what it says.
What is the famous quote? I always forget it.
Oh boy, is there a famous quote from this? He's gonna
Is
bust
it the
a
one
record.
Is it the one where the video game says it? Like that's the intro. That's the only famous one I can think of. Oh, well, Scotty kind of started.
Yeah, that was the greetings, Starfighter. You've been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Xur and the Kodan Armada.
The Kodan Armada.
It's kind of what it says every few minutes there. The arcade machine.
The movie.
To hold on that, when Toy Story came out, I thought Zurg. I thought that's a Starfighter reference. Like, God damn it, close.
No, it's really easy to name bad guys with a Z.
Yeah, or an X.
Lightyear recruited. Like
maybe.
Oh man.
Yeah. So this movie, it mainly takes place in a trailer park, which is called Starlight Starbright. And there's an arcade machine at I guess it's a convenience store / restaurant / like their Walmart kind of thing. Yeah. With it just has the one arcade machine, and it's just Alex is always hanging out there. Old timer Otis is, I guess, the owner of it. He could be the mayor of this trailer park. That's what I kind of christened him as. I wasn't really sure because he just kind of starts off the movie with saying it's a beautiful day or something weird. I forget. It's
crazy too. That arcade cabinet is like halfway covered by something, so if it ever rains, like it's gonna get like totally rained on. But whatever. Yeah. That's my old man thinkings on that one.
Maybe it just doesn't rain. They might be out near Paradise or something where Tremors
these are the happiest people to live at a trailer park. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, it's that small town feeling, I guess, because you relay messages to each other just by yelling across the yards and stuff.
Yeah, but our main character has a problem, though. He doesn't want to be there. So.
He's Mr. Fix. He's the handyman of the town, and he doesn't want it. He wants to go to a big-time school, one of the Big Ten, and make something of himself. I don't know if he wants to be an astronaut or what. He just kind of stares at his little planetary display.
He just wants to get out. He just wants to get out of there. So it doesn't matter what he wants to be. He just wants to be away from where he's at.
I want to talk about the arcade machine before we get too far into the movie. Do you have? Is there a button on the throttle? It almost looks like the Hydro Thunder thing, or is he like?
Yeah.
He's like mimicking like he pulls back on the throttle to fire. I couldn't quite figure out how that works exactly. Did anyone happen to notice how it actually does shoot or anything like that? The weird mechanics.
Nah, I would assume that there were probably buttons on the left side that were probably shoot or thrust or whatever.
Okay, this might have just been another victim of, hey, I'm playing video games, so I'm gonna act like I'm playing video games.
Yeah, it's like when a kid pulls out a Game Boy in an old movie and there's no game in it.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. But I think Corey, you're the newest to this movie, so because you just recently saw this thing. I think Sketchcraft, didn't you mention you saw it in the theater? Am I right?
Yeah, I saw it in the theaters when it came out.
Nice. Was that?
Yeah, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
The stories. I've told the story before, but it's so like in the 80s, man. Like they did. You bought a ticket, and everyone when the movie ended just walked into another theater. Like,
oh yeah.
Movie hopping, yeah.
So I went with my uncle. We went and saw The Last Starfighter, which I loved. He obviously did not because he was 30 years old. So then we walked right into Bachelor Party. and we got halfway in around the donkey scene, so we waited for the credits, and then sat to the front of the movie till we got to the donkey scene. Then we walked out and went and saw Star Trek 3.
Wow, what a day!
That was a hell of a good day for you.
People go, wow, you remember when you saw The Last Starfighter? Whoa. And I'm like, you got to understand the context. Like, yes, I love the
partially
movie.
3 movies that day.
I grew up, it was a red letter day in Sketchcraft.
Well, I feel like in that situation too, you said your uncle was like a 30-year-old and he was like, well, that's like, this is a good movie. Like the movie's all right, but I feel like since I didn't grow up with the movie, I don't have as much like attachments and stuff to it. It's the same with Tron. Like I did not see Tron when I was younger, but I recently, about 3 or 4 years ago, I decided I was like, oh, I want to, I've watched Tron Legacy. I should sit down and watch Tron.
Oh boy.
So I sat down and watched Tron. It was when me and my wife were first dating, and we're watching it. She leans over about 30 minutes in. She goes, I don't want to be rude, but this movie seems really boring. And I'm like, yeah, it's a little rough. But this one, I definitely like this movie more than I like Tron. I just like the aspect. I guess as an older person, I can understand where the kid's coming from. Like, hey, I need to get out of here. I just want to get out of here and all that stuff. And also, he's very like humanistic too. He gets up there and he gets up to the Starfighter like base and headquarters, and they're like, "You're a Starfighter." He's like, "I don't want to be a Starfighter. I'm not dying for like." Basically how anyone would react that would just kind of like got pulled into this situation.
After he watches a dude's face melt on screen, too.
Yeah, basically. Well, geez, yeah, I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's not that bad. Like, granted, the graphics are a little dated, but I'll go into more things once we start talking about the movie some more.
The CGI and the special effects were actually done by a company called Digital Effects, who actually worked on Tron prior to this movie. So
okay, there we go.
The special effects in this, they somewhat look the same like style as Tron.
They look like a Star Fox game.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You should know though that their production was cut a year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and especially like all of the asteroids, which look like milky potatoes, was not going to look like that. Like they just Paramount or Universal. I can't remember what it was.
It was Universal.
Yeah, they cut them an entire year and just put the movie out.
So in 1984, what was the normal box office budget for a movie? Do we know what the median was back then?
I don't know. This one had a $15 million budget,
which by today's standards is amazing.
Right. It would go on. The domestic box office was nearly $29 million. Is when it brought in, so
it made double. So
success.
Yeah,
not a huge blockbuster or anything. Like this movie is very Spielbergian, and
yeah.
I mean, it plays all the same kind of notes that a lot of Spielberg movies did. And in my research, I found that they were originally going to actually have it set in like suburbia, but that was one of the things that they decided to change to try to differentiate it from the Spielberg movies.
Everybody wants to get out of the suburbs,
and so that's how they set it in this different setting, which I personally love. Like I think it's great. There's a lot of it's a very like fond setting. Like I could see, that it's a very close knit community and everything, but it's also a perfect setting for a character like Alex, who, like you guys said earlier, wants to get out. He feels kind of like he's being like kind of just restricted to this area, and he wants to go out and see the world and go on these adventures.
And we find out early too that his original plan to like get the loan and go to college is dashed because he couldn't get the loan. So now he's just kind of like pseudo depressed.
Yeah.
If this were remade today, not only he would get the loan, but he would have to go to another universe to avoid the student debt.
Yeah. Actually, getting the loan is probably the worst decision he could have made.
Turns out Zur and them bought up all the, they're Navient now.
Yeah, they're behind the student loan debt crisis.
Yeah, that's how they're keeping all the Starfighters out.
You give me and Sketch 30 minutes in a room, we'll come out, we'll bash out Last Starfighter 2. So.
That almost happened.
Sequel.
We'll talked about a sequel for a while, yeah.
Sequel discussion later.
Before we get too far from it, I want to talk about the asshole jocks when, like, the first day Alex is like, I'm going to go up to the lake and hang out with my, I guess, girlfriend, and then the jocks roll up while he's getting the mail, and his mom's like, oh, fucking Susie Q over there needs her electric fix, and like all the jocks laugh at him. Like, I don't understand why that's funny. Like, he's probably the handiest person amongst you idiots.
I don't think they're jocks. I think they're supposed to be his friends.
So, I guess. I don't know.
Because the one reason that they have the one guy is obviously he has the car or the truck, so that's why they're friends with him. But yeah, they're kind of douchey. Like, they're douchebags. There's a scene where what was it? His girlfriend, what's his girlfriend's name?
Maggie.
Mags. She basically goes without him to wherever they were going, and there's this one guy that's just like, obviously being the biggest 80s douchebag ever without calling someone the F word, which we've watched previous movies, and everyone just likes to throw that one around. So,
yeah.
But I did like that because you didn't get that in this movie, so that was refreshing.
Yeah.
See, is he mentioning? Is that a slight towards Monster Squad?
Yep.
That is, yes. Yep. Which they throw that out so liberally in that
big
movie.
time.
I don't listen to this podcast, but I know.
It's that. Well, that and around that time too, I was trying to get people to watch The Gate, and they use it in The Gate a lot.
Stephen Dorff.
Mm.
Yeah, finally someone that understands the Stephen.
It's sad.
Young Stephen Dorff.
Yeah. But yeah, and so he doesn't go out, he fixed stuff, but then, he's playing the Starfighter, and Mayor Otis is like, he's gonna bust a record! And I'm like, I don't know if you know what you're saying. It's phrasing. But that just shows how close-knit the town is, because it's like, mainly elderly people. They don't fucking know what he's doing, but they're excited because something's happening, and he's like, I'm gonna break 900 million or something, and then he does it, and
only 900,000
or something, yeah, and
that's the record.
Maybe he hit a million or something like that.
Two things on that. I feel one, someone should have sampled he's gonna bust the record, like in some 80s hip hop, like, someone should he's gonna bust. Yeah, right. And two, like, you could, like, this is what I think every guy in King of Kong thinks they're doing when they get the Donkey Kong kill screen. Right?
Oh, yeah.
This is how Billy Mitchell and those dudes imagine themselves. Like, the reality is, it's more
Don't
like...
get me on Billy Mitchell.
Did you ever see that Nibbler one where the guy beat the Nibbler and it was, like,
really
sad? Like, yeah, it's more like that. Like,
oh, man, Billy Mitchell. Apparently, I can't not talk about him every week.
So you just love his sauces in his restaurant.
No.
But after that,
after
that, he gets a big kiss from Maggie, and one of my favorite scenes is when little Lewis is spying on them, and they kiss, and he's like, all he says is diarrhea, like, like he doesn't, he doesn't say like, oh, that's gross, or like, make me vomit. He just says the word diarrhea, and I really, very.
We don't know. He might
have
a real bad Southern drawl, and he might just be saying diary. But
yeah, he's screaming to his diary. I don't know. But yeah, and can we talk about how a DeLorean pulls up, and this could have been the movie that made DeLoreans cool because it came out before Back to the Future, or less, at least cool in the cinematic sense. But But that's what I forget. What's the salesman's name now with the fedora? I forget his name now. Centauri, yeah. He's one of the best characters in this, I think.
Yeah,
he's just
pretty,
a
him
good
and
time.
Craig.
Yeah. They're probably the biggest pros in this show as well. But that's pretty good. He pulls up
The
and
makeup is pretty good too.
yeah, the makeup, the effects are something. I'm surprised. Did you already mention what the effects are done on, Chris? The computer or whatever?
No.
I don't think it's called a Cray
No, hold on.
XMP. What happened?
All right.
Was that
So I can give you
spoilers?
No, I know all this shit, man. I don't even need your fucking Wikipedia. So yeah, they were done on Cray's supercomputer. Cool part is though, man, this movie got done because the guys over at Cray pitched an X-wing fighter, fucking like demo to ILM using the Crays.
Okay.
And on the original Last Starfighter DVD release, they put the footage on there, and they reused that as the opening for X-wing or Rogue Squadron, one of the two games. Like they took that either they were like, yeah, this looks amazing, not ready for film, but the angles and the way that the camera swoops were like they could never do them with models, you know.
Yeah,
that makes sense because the starships in this kind of look like a mixture of an X-wing and a Y-wing kind of put
like
together.
A chunkier X-wing. It's
one of the guys, I forget his name, was like, crap. I saw it. But he was one of the designers of the in Star Wars of some of the spaceships.
And he designed a lot of the military tech on Alien and stuff. Yeah, Ron Cobb, but he designed it functionally, like it would actually be able to maneuver in 360-degree space. So
and you can see that too. Like it just doesn't like whip around real quick or anything like that. Like it has it looks like how a big ship would move back. Like, I mean, I say back then, but we don't have anything different nowadays, like in the actual world. But yeah, we'll keep talking about it because there are some things I want to talk about once we get to them when we're talking about the story and all that stuff. So,
yeah, I don't even know.
This is when we first get after Centauri shows up and they go through that whole thing where he's talking about I want you to join
I'm a recruiter.
Exactly, and he takes them. Finally, when they're driving away. That's when his car goes up and they start flying into outer space. So this is kind of the first time we get to see some of the CGI in that. And I remember I was talking to someone a while back on Twitter, and they were saying that they wish that they would redo this movie, but completely rehaul all the CGI in it because they think that that's like one of the weakest parts of the movie, or just it doesn't hold up as well as like the rest of the movie does.
Yeah.
And I could see that, and I would certainly be interested in seeing it redone. But I also think that that's one of the most charming aspects of this movie too. Like I like the CGI in it.
I think it's a time capsule with how the CGI looks.
Yeah. I'm looking through this too. There's another guy that's from Halloween 3 in here too. His name's Al Berry. He was in the cast too. Sorry, go ahead.
Al Berry.
I can honestly say when I was I remember sitting in the theater watching this movie, and like, look, I'd already seen Star Wars and Return of the Jedi and everything, and I loved it. But I remember looking at this looks different, and I couldn't figure it out. It wasn't animated, like it's not a cartoon, I was not and it definitely moved better. Like as boring as Tron is, when you get to that light cycle sequence, everyone comes alive. Everyone goes, "This fucking amazing," and then it goes back to fucking whatever. With this film, I get that the level of tech, obviously you look at the CGI and you go, well, it wasn't that great. But I gotta be honest, man, when you compare to the jittery movements of the ED-209, which 3 years later, stop motion. The kind of camera angles they're able to do in this, you couldn't even do Return of the Jedi. So, I don't think it was a bad trade-off, and I don't know so much about replacing the movie, but I do think that it's an underrated time capsule in visual effects. I mean, this movie predates Back to the Future, right? So, and I just couldn't imagine. You didn't get another space Starfighter, we didn't get anything again for how many years, man? When you really think about it, and there was a lot of shitty movies with spaceships like Ice Pirates and shit like that, where they had these weird, or Captain EO might be the close. Star Tours was maybe the next thing I can remember, where you actually had ships flying around in space. It just stopped.
Oh, I was gonna say Space Raiders, but Space Raiders came out a year before Last Starfighter, so.
Yeah, there wasn't anything for the longest time, man. And that's the one. after 1985, man, I'm not going to deviate too far here, but after 1985, movies sucked for a long time, especially in the theaters. Like, they really did. It was a lot of these movies like Big Business and 3 Men and a Baby and, Parenthood. And as a kid,
like
you were
94.
Yeah, there was more like actual acting. I mean, not as much special effects, but more so like just dramas and stuff. Not really any sci-fi stuff, like you said.
Yeah, and if there was, it was like RoboCop, which luckily I could watch, but my friends weren't allowed to watch it. Spaceballs might be it. That might be the only thing I can think of that had like a spaceship. Yeah. And you know what I mean? That's like you're so.
Yeah, you should go. Since I talked about Space Raiders, but you should go. Space Raiders is kind of like a B sci-fi movie. You should go check that out too.
Oh, we're not about B movies here, sir. Obviously.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about high quality movies.
Yeah. Diarrhea.
Like House of the Dead and
and these balding aliens who look like the one they could be in This Island Earth also in this movie.
Yeah. Some of these guys, we're talking about, these guys look like just like hoity-toity aliens. Like they all have like chrome domes. Which
they look like they should have like sweaters draped across their shoulders.
So that's the weird thing. It's all just like receding hairlines. It's the old guy haircut where it's just the top of your head's bald and the rest of it's just white and it's just kind of you're hanging on to what you have. But it's weird because I could see that for the guys, but there's also females that have the same hair, and it just looks super weird.
Well, it's the dwarven woman mentality. Like if you look in like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, they're like, our dwarven women are beautiful, and then you see them, you're like, oh okay. Maybe it's the same situation here. They're like, oh, her hairline's so far back, she is so fine.
Look at that hairline.
Wonderful. Little factoid, the translator that's given to Alex when he gets on up to Rylos or wherever, it's just the circuit board of a digital watch.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, but I love how like the lady alien is like, you hear English, blah blah blah, now with your translator, and it's like, well, just don't ever take this shirt off, I guess.
Well, that's good too. Like, you know how long it takes them to explain that? About less than 2 minutes. There's not a 20-minute backstory on like why this translator was created by this head corporate guy. It's just like, hey, here's a translator. Here you go.
But I think that's also a good touch because so many other movies just will completely bypass that, and then you start thinking, like, why are all these aliens like speaking English? Like that just doesn't make sense.
English really is the universal language.
Yeah. What's funny is at the end of the movie, Alex is the only one with the translator on, but Greg comes back to Earth with him, and Greg's just talking to everybody, and they understand him.
Maybe they were aliens all along.
Aha! Bunch of weirdo trailer park people.
I will say this comes from the era where movie covers looked real. Like movie covers of this era, like always looked really cool to me because they looked like they were actually painted and stuff like that. But I'm just looking at this and like the Enemy Mine and. The cover
Crawl
for
and
Crawl.
stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
I definitely the reason I saw this movie was it was just something I picked up randomly in Walmart. I was just like, this looks like something I might dig, and that was it.
Well, see, my wife's aunt this is like her favorite movie ever.
Oh
so
wow!
I was talking to my wife. I said we need to get a copy of this or find somewhere to watch it. She goes, Aunt Cass has one, and she already gave it to me. And I was like, all right, well, I guess we're watching this. So
and you're set. Yeah.
So
you mentioned the practical effects you dig. Like, what did you think of Beta when he's first under the covers and he's like breathing through his skin and stuff, Corey?
I thought that was pretty cool. Like you said, I am a sucker for good practical effects, and like the whole time, like they're not showing him, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be something cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do show him, and he's all like disfigured and everything. And then they go into explaining why he looked like that and all that. They're like, oh yeah, the minute I touched your hand in the car, I got some of your DNA. So now it just takes me a little bit, but I become a thing that looks just like you. I thought that was really cool. And then
if you pause it when he's in the car, it's just some random Puerto Rican dude that he's shaking hands with.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there's a light flash. It was hard to make out the whole thing, but it was definitely not just another white guy.
You're just frame by frame looking at this.
I noticed that one part, so I thought like, let's see if I can actually see.
I think that's cool. I think that's really cool. Like I said, this movie, I wish I would have saw this movie when I was younger because I'd have been like, holy crap, this is amazing. But as a 31-year-old man, it's still a good movie. It still holds up. I know it has a very complicated history on why it hasn't been remade or anything like that, but I would like to see. I think I'm under the impression it is. I've heard you guys talk about it every once in a while, but it's something to do with the rights or something like that, isn't it, Chris? Like,
yeah, the director has a control over that. Nick Castle.
Yeah,
he's held a lot of that back. And I mean, like, I don't know about a movie, but I definitely think on Netflix as a series.
It could easily be a series. Yeah.
Like he's the last Starfighter. He's trying to. It's like kind of like the Last Jedi. He's trying to find more other people to recruit.
This sequence in the movie though, where he's going through he's getting his clothes and he's going and watching the videos. I gotta tell you, man, 1986 when I first went to Star Tours, I was like, "Is this Last Starfighter?" Like you walk through the whole line, and all the Star Wars, people working there were like, "You fucking idiot kid."
They're like, "Someone shut this kid up. He knows."
Yeah. But even that video that would play in Star Tours, like telling you not to smoke on the plane, all these aliens sit down. I'm like, it looks a lot like that sequence, man. Where he sits down next to all those different aliens and stuff.
Yeah, I love the one where he's just like, you offended this certain kind of alien that's basically going to kill you now.
Oh yeah, the Cthulhu looking thing. And when I was watching this with my girlfriend, she's like, "Oh, it looks like an Ood from Doctor Who." And I look it up. I'm like, "Honey, this is just another thing that looks like Cthulhu. It's not Doctor Who. Whatever." I was just mad.
Ood.
Some of the alien designs are pretty interesting. None of them are as good or as iconic as what you see in like Star Wars, I think, but they're still pretty good for early 80s.
Yeah,
design.
Especially when you have a lot of like Star Trek aliens that just like it's a human but with more wrinkles or something. These ones are. Granted, it was pretty clear that the costumes were hard to move around in, like the dude with like 7 fingers and stuff. But it was still cool to see an actual creature next to him.
Yeah. Him showing up to the headquarters is basically kind of like the cantina scene for Star Wars, where you get to see all the different kinds of aliens and all that stuff, and then it is promptly taken care of.
Oh, with the floating head, you mean?
No, I'm just saying it just blows up.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like, and then all that's thrown aside because we see a big blue head floating, I guess, in the middle of the room.
That holographic was even my wife was like, "Oh boy." But it is what it is. We got that over like an Andros 3D poly just face talking. So
right, that's true.
Which it also makes you hate the main bad guy too. You're just like, this guy's a snotty-nosed kid.
Right, pretty much.
I think too, though, this is the first movie that really blended CGI elements into live-action plates.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the car taking off, even trying to do that. The Last Starfighter base that's like built into the asteroid, like trying to like make that look, replace models and stuff. So
right, yeah.
I mean, 10 years later, Lucas started production on episode 1. So, I mean, it's
right.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you think about it, like, we can do all these things with computers. And you're like, kind of, well, I mean, 10 years later, but it just took a long time to get there. I mean, it was 20 years, easily 20 years early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all very shiny though. I think that's how it doesn't age super well, but I still enjoy it. It's
very brightly lit. And I also love to, like, back in that era too. You could just basically take a big old piece of wood and paint it like dark gray and stick a bunch of lights in it, and then that's your headquarters security like circuit board that you command everything on.
Wall mounted keyboards, the future.
Yeah.
This is the best part that I think that I like about the headquarters is because there's so many of those things where there's just randomly lit buttons going off and people in the background acting like they're pressing stuff. And
yeah, like staring at sonar and stuff that does not make sense for space.
Just audio waves and like buttons that aren't labeled and all that. Except for the one. Was the Death Blossom button even labeled, or was it just red?
It was just like
it had a special container. You can just hit the Death Blossom.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would have been fun. Oops.
It's like a spanking bar.
Goes off in the hangar. You know what I mean? No one can run from it.
Not again.
That's the bloopers.
Not again would be the great. Last Starfighter 2, not again.
Just hear Greg. Not again.
Yeah, someone set off that, like, he let his little dumb brother in there, sets off Death Blossom, kills all the Starfighters.
We told you. We said we needed to label it. Why the hell is there a smiley face on the button? Why?
And then set it to
It's
a
like
laugh track.
Iron Eagle 2. We killed everyone off in the first 3 minutes, and now we go on the same adventure as the first movie. Awesome.
That really could just be that. Yeah, a sequel to this would just be that again, pretty much. I mean, that's what
Wouldn't
most
that be
sequels
great
are.
if they had mixed Iron Starfighter or you know what I mean, like Star Eagle, and they
Well, that
get
just sounded
like,
awesome. Iron Starfighter.
Yeah, and they get like what's his face? What was Doug Masters gets kicked out of the Air Force, and so he goes and like just hangs out in an arcade and gets recruited.
Yeah.
The Star League, you know what I mean? And Rogan's like his buddy, and then like they're like in space, like trying to one up one. It's like Days of Thunder, you know.
It's kind of like Top Gun, but in space a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think we just described every movie, basically, though.
Yeah, we can have playing with the
Kenny
boys.
Loggins can do the soundtrack.
Yeah.
You know,
We got
Right.
space volleyball.
Exactly.
What was it Harold Faltermeyer? Was it Faltermeyer, right? The
Think
Alex
so,
F
yeah.
dude. Yeah.
And then we get Val Kilmer in there.
Michael Ironside plays the bad guy.
I feel the
Oh,
need.
yeah, but he blows up people's heads.
I feel the
Phoebe
need.
Cates is Doug Masters' new girlfriend. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And he
She's got
says,
a story about Arbor Day that she lost somebody close to her.
and at some
He
point,
gets stuck on an asteroid with a little alien kid, and they learn to befriend one another, even though
Oh,
they don't
no.
speak the same language. He
Yeah.
lost his shirt, so he can't understand him. He's just.
That's the plot of the
shirtless half
movie.
Oh man! All right, so listeners, if you're
well, now we
listening
just
to
got
this
a stranger in a strange land now.
yeah, if you could give us a list of all the movies we just referenced, you will get a cookie.
Yeah. And meanwhile, his famous tagline is going to be, "I feel the need for light speed."
Oh god, there we go.
Oh
do
It's
man.
like we're never letting Sketchcraft on this.
Oh my goodness. But kind of going back to practical effects, I love the design of the assassin. What are they called? Zanduzans or whatever? It's like a weird
Zanduzan.
frog-eyed alien thing that drools a lot. I don't know.
Smell really bad.
I guess
The
he has a
Zanduzan.
scent, yeah, but only the beta unit can smell him or something. I didn't care, but I love the look of him. I like all the practical
Totally makes
effects
sense.
in this.
Yeah, how he dies, he just like melts.
Oh, did you guys notice how the beta unit's hair looked a little different?
Yeah, well, do you know the story behind that?
I do, but you can tell it.
Okay. So, I guess they ended up doing some reshoots on this movie after everything had been done, and so they had to bring Lance Guest back, but he had been working on a different role, and he had cut his hair, so they're basically having to have him wear this wig for all those shoots. And
For his own hair.
he was also sick at that same time, and so they had to put like makeup on him, and so all those scenes with him look really weird. Like it's the thing is, it's all the beta unit or the beta Alex scenes, and so I think it kind of works in a way because it's still like kind of a copy of him, and maybe you could kind of like justify it as like he's not really 100%, like him.
Right.
It actually works to their benefit.
I think it
so.
did.
Yeah.
In this situation, I definitely think it did.
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
otherwise you just have carbon copies like literally looking at each other. This gives them a little bit more person, because even the beta unit or beta Alex has a little bit different personality than Alex,
Mm-hmm.
and
That-
it just kind of like sets them apart.
He's a
That
little more
classic
rapey.
robot. Okay.
What?
Well, I mean,
There we
he's
go.
he's always trying to like bang his girlfriend and like saying all this just super like uncomfortable shit.
He
I don't know
doesn't
that he
how
was trying
emotions
to.
work.
Yeah, he was just trying to make sure he fit in, and then he finally gave up when she didn't want him to talk dirty to her.
Yeah, because she's like, "Why won't you kiss me?" And he's like, "Why would I do that?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like,
Kiss a girl.
44 minutes in,
Diarrhea.
and Chris brought it up.
I feel like I think the idea of replacing someone was really good science fiction writing. The way it was executed in the film felt like some suit was like, we need some of that 80s teen meatball stuff in here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It
just the
didn't need to
execution
happen.
of it, it was not.
You probably could have just like kept the like that, like you said too. That's really cool that they actually brought someone in. Like, hey, you're going to be gone a while, so we need to make sure that people around you don't think like, oh my
Yeah.
god, he's missing or something like.
I
They
do like
totally
that.
just kinda, like ignored that.
Because that was something that they didn't even originally plan for. Those whole scenes with basically Beta Alex going out partying with his friends, and I don't think that was really needed.
Mm-mm.
You could have probably just kept that out, but I could see that sketch in that maybe like after maybe they did some test showings or something, and they felt like they needed to hit some of that more kind of like 80s party vibe. And so some executive like, we got to get this in here.
Yeah, we got to go. We're going up against Bachelor Party. You know what I mean? Get a donkey. Get Prince. They should have made Prince. You know what I mean? Like the ruler of the Kodan Armada. They could do like they use music. You know, like the.
But he doesn't say a word.
Yeah.
Huh? Hey, you know what, man? You know, I'll take it. You know what I mean? I'll take it.
Yep. He just got like a cool guitar in the background, and his entire fleet's purple.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they unleashed the purple rain on the planet.
Boom.
Like dirt dudes and shit. Like
there you go.
Lord. It would have been better than the goofy guy with the scepter spear.
I didn't understand. What was the point of that scepter? Why did that like just designate? Was that like a crown kind of for the king sort of thing, or?
I guess so.
Well, the emperor, their emperor was the one that put him in charge of that like armada, basically. Like, so he's not
for the tree people
that he's like ruling over them as like their like emperor or anything, but he does say that once they destroy like the whatever like the starfighters, he's going to
Starfighter base
take power over like the Federation and stuff. So that's like his kind of goal, is that he's going to eventually like overcome all the good guys and kill his mean dad and take over and be.
He's a snotty nosed brat, is what he was.
Yeah, he's just a little piece of shit.
I am shocked that never made its way into Family Guy. That thing, that little weapon, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
And every time he opens up, it makes that noise.
Yeah,
like, it makes every time.
I could see it like accidentally like poking it with someone, and then it kills them in Family Guy. Yeah,
like or like
Brian,
the spring
like,
unloads or something, and it bounces away and stabs somebody.
Yeah,
it should just come out of nowhere, where like Brian challenges Stewie or Brian, or, the kid, the fat kid, and then he just pulls out that shing, you undermine my power, you know what I mean? Like, all right, man, like, me in charge, like, all right, man.
You always see it with the Star Trek, like the all that stuff too. So it'd be good to see Last Starfighter. I would love a
parody film of the Last Starfighter. That would be fucking hilarious.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, and then it just ends with, "We're sorry, we realize no one's seen this movie, so we hope somebody out there got the reference."
There could be so much of that.
And then they can put in Bachelor Party references too.
God, and just end with Weekend at Bernie's somehow. I'm sure they've already made fun of that though.
No, probably.
Yeah, but I lost my train of thought. We were talking about cool kids hanging out near the lake, trying to get some and drinking whatever, drinking their Milwaukee Beast. I don't know. So we didn't really mention how he becomes the Last Starfighter. Basically, he goes up there and he's like, "Fuck this, I'm out. I'm not helping you guys. I just watched that dude's face melt on screen. Do you think that's cool? I'm not fighting for that." And then Centauri takes him back, and while that happens, the tree people, I don't even know what they are. They look like they're made out of beef jerky, or like the halfway point of Mrs. Doubtfire's makeup or something.
They're just called shitlords.
Oh, is that it? Okay, that's good.
yeah, it's the even lesser GoBot sequel. Right? Like,
shitlords.
Yeah, this is like that toy franchise. It ain't going anywhere.
That's good. Yeah,
but that's the whole reason the snotty nose guy is like even a part of the opposing team, I guess, is because he knows how to get through the armada that is being held up that's protecting everyone in the universe against the forces of Xur, and he's like, I know like the loophole, and that's basically why he's there.
Yeah,
and then they blow up the Last Starfighter base by throwing a bunch of asteroids at it.
Yeah, that's
funny,
load the asteroid
they
gun.
Don't need them anymore.
Yeah, they don't.
No.
They loaded the catapult, the space catapult, and just shot some turds at them, and they're dead.
Yeah.
But so that's why Alex
hit the base and killed everybody.
Yeah, but it didn't really, or some of them.
Well,
I don't know.
the thing was, it was also because of the Rylands, like the spy needed to be there because the spy deactivated the guns on the.
Oh yes.
And that's the whole reason, because they were just like, all right, we got these asteroids, let's just shoot them. And then the last one, they're like, the guns aren't working. They're like, uh-oh. And that's basically what happens. And then, they find out Centauri, and then they kind of hear, like, over the radio, Is that what it was? They hear it, or does he finally decide he's like, no, I'll go ahead and be a starfighter?
Wait. What do you mean? Does he?
I'm talking about with Alex. Alex, when they get back to Earth, he's like, "Do you really want to?" Oh no, that's when the assassin happens, right?
Yeah, the assassin's there, and they realize like he's there for. They learn that there's one last starfighter on Earth, and then they toss the assassin there to go kill him.
Well, yeah, because once they destroy the headquarters, one of the shitlords says to like the other guy, it's like, we learned that there's one like starfighter ship.
A ship, yeah,
right.
And
well,
he's like, God damn it.
The communication that gets through is the last starfighter, and it gets cut off because the beta unit kills the assassin.
Oh,
and then
last.
They go
to
the last starfighter, and then the space version of that asshole son from Braveheart goes, the last starfighter is dead.
He's dead.
Yeah.
I've got the talking stick. It's my turn. He's dead.
Yeah. Of course, he goes, you're dead. You know, you're like, all right, man.
All right, we got it.
I really think those two shitlord guys were just really looking at one another like, fucking all week with this guy.
Yeah.
God damn.
You know,
I'm ready for him to go to his mom's house.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said this was going to be like Star Wars, man. I didn't know it was going to be like Episode 1. You know, like. I like also, if you look at they have these puffy outfits, these red puffy outfits, and in 91, 92, Coppola made that Dracula movie, and in the beginning, Dracula has this red armor. I'm like, it's the fucking Coda.
Oh yeah, it looks like it's muscle. Yeah,
yeah, it's the Coda. Fucking Vlad the Impaler was a Coda. All that. He must have been playing their original game, picked him up. You know what I mean? It was like the inverse. You know. The last Impaler went out across the galaxy, and that might be the stick, right? You know how it's got that stake? Right? Like, maybe, hey, you know, like
Sketch is just going off on one, man.
you guys gotta get me on more early.
So now the Last Starfighter and Bram Stoker's Dracula is a shared universe, is what we've established.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, right?
Sure.
You know what I mean, he was in The Day After Tomorrow, so technically, you know, like,
Can we justify Monster Squad also being in this?
it's probably happening somewhere in the next town or something.
I told you I leave Monster Squad, Lost Boys, and Goonies all in a shared universe, bro. You know what I mean?
I can see that.
Oh yeah,
I can see.
that's the kid cinematic universe or something. I don't know, the KCU.
It'll do better than
the Kentucky. I almost it was like Kentucky Fried. Like, oh no, okay.
Kentucky Chicken University. I don't know.
The KFCU is all those different guys who play Colonel Sanders.
That's a different,
yeah. David Hasselhoff, Reba McEntire,
Norm Macdonald. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It'll do better than the Dooku. It'll do better than the Dooku.
I have a question though. This movie doesn't seem to have, like, this came out a year after E.T. I'm shocked it doesn't have like a food product tie-in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they have like Budweiser in there, but that's really it. But they don't have anyone like trying to eat like, what is a hamburger or anything like that, you know?
Man, I'm sure enjoying this Pepsi Cola.
Yeah.
Well, even Back to the Future had Tab. Remember? Can I get a Tab? So you're like,
yeah.
right. So
Tab.
It's almost weird that there's no soda product placement in this.
The budget probably would have been bigger if they did.
Maybe, yeah. They would have had like RC Cola or something. I don't know.
Oh, RC Cola.
Oh, another fun, like, I have the movie playing in the background for myself as like visual reminders, but when they're like driving in back from Centauri, like, is going to bring him back, I guess you can see in the reflection of the windshield, like, basically the ceiling of the set is just exposed. Little fun stuff like that.
They only had so much digital trickery that they could do. Yeah.
Now, the Death Blossom, is that where Web Blossom came from? Because it's basically that in the new Spider-Man game. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a nod to the Last Starfighter.
Is it literally? Because that's awesome.
It literally is a nod to the Last Starfighter. In the theater, I was like, my wife was looking at me, fucking Rob, man. You know, like,
God damn it, he's doing
you know, she's like, don't yell it out.
I'll
yell it out. I was like, yeah. She just put her hand on me. You know, like, when a cat wants you to stop petting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one cares. You know, I'm like, they care. They put it in there. You know?
Yeah, I care. I matter. Damn it.
It's pretty great. I picture. I mean, I picture if that happens in real life, like Alex is in there just like wah, 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 just throwing up everywhere as he's spinning around chaotically in space. But
do you think later in life, old Alex Rogan was watching Spider-Man and was like, "That's my fucking shit," you know?
Son of a bitch.
100%. 100%. I also like. We're getting into the point where Alex has become the last Starfighter, and he teams up. He finds out that Grigg didn't die, and there's one ship left, so they're gonna go take on the Zer force. And they're like, even Alex is like, well, how the hell are we gonna do that? There's one of us and a bunch of them, and then they concoct a plan. They'd be like, they have a concise plan that could work.
It's so crazy, it just bites.
Yeah, they're basically gonna let the fleet go past them, and then they're gonna pop up and destroy their communications turret.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that. I liked how I talked about it recently too. I like movies that have a clear, concise goal that they always have to go towards. It's same with a movie I recently watched called Overlord. And Overlord is a World War II zombie movie
it's
where
fucking awesome.
It's really, really good. Where in that movie, where if you took the zombie super soldier aspect out of the movie, it's still a good World War II movie with a concise plan on what they need to do to finish their mission. I'd like movies that do that. Like, you can have all these, basically you can have your main story quest and all these little side things, but you're always focusing towards that main story quest. So that's what I liked about this movie too.
Every time I fuck up around a house or on a trip or anything, and then my wife goes, "What are you gonna do now, Rob?" I'll have it all figured out by the time we get to the frontier.
Yeah.
What's that? It's the frontier.
Oh man,
Nice.
That was like the Last Starfighter, just like in your wedding vows, and she knew what she was in, like knew what she was in for.
We did play "Everything Is Awesome," the slow acoustic version.
Nice.
Of our wedding song.
Everything is awesome.
That's awesome.
Yep, that's pretty good. What'd you guys think about when he takes his head off?
Wow, I think you should open up with that quote.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's pretty good. I got some Reanimator vibes from it. I don't know when Reanimator. Let me check when Reanimator came out, but I thought that was funny. I do like the little brothers.
What the hell is going on?
Oh my god! Hold on a minute.
The little brother is awesome in this movie. I fucking love him.
I think he almost got an award. I think.
He's always looking at Playboys, and then he's going around like looking for a specific issue. He's like, "Oh, here's June of '82 or whatever."
Yeah, he says like "Mama Zama" or something.
He is like a Wikipedia for sex porn shit. You know what I mean? In the middle of nowhere.
He's probably selling them to other kids in the trailer park or whatever.
Yeah.
The best part is just him, the opening scene of him just going around like shooting people with a fucking like Nerf gun, and he just walks past and just like no scopes people just out of nowhere. He just walks by and there's like
fucking plebs.
People. Yeah, it's so great. I love him.
Bunch of noobs.
I'm convinced that everyone has just stolen everything from The Last Starfighter, because Reanimator came out a year after this movie.
God damn.
And yeah, man, like everything just stole from The Last Starfighter.
Yeah.
You're justified, Sketch.
I remember at Too Many Games, Chris lost his shit because some dude walked by with a hockey jersey stylized after The Last Starfighter. Do you remember that, Chris?
Yeah, it was awesome. You don't see that kind of stuff very often, and when I do, I lose my shit.
Mm-hmm.
Does he remember? It's why we're not allowed back to Too Many Games.
I will say, I think the Last Starfighter logo is super iconic. It looks so badass.
It's like the Tron one too, where
whoever
the guys
designed
hold the
man,
disc.
Ron
did
Cobb.
a really good job.
Is it Ron Cobb?
Yeah, Ron Cobb. You probably don't know his name. Go look up Ron Cobb. You're going to know his work. He is as prolific and as important to 80s, 70s cinema as Sid Mead. You know what I mean? Joe Johnston, all those. I mean, he just for some reason I almost think like sometimes you meet those people who are too talented, and they're like, man, fuck that guy. Like I think he got some of that. You know?
Man, fuck that guy.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Everyone knew who he was. You know what I mean? Like he's super fucking good.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I'm looking at some of his work right now, and it's just like sketches of like just spaceships and all that stuff. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see the aesthetic that has been everywhere, pretty much. Another one favorite portion for me is when he comes back after saving the day and everything, and lands, and Granny's got a gun. That was
Granny
pretty
got
great.
double barrel shotgun.
Yeah, and even Alex is like, Granny, put the shotgun away. What's wrong with you, or something like that.
Like it's a normal thing.
Yeah. And I guess that was Maggie's grandma, and that's why she lives there. I don't know. I don't really care that much about Maggie. But
Well, that was Maggie's excuse the whole time, is she can't leave because what about Grandma? What about Grandma? And then finally Grandma's like, get the fuck out. So
yeah, it's
Grandma's
like
got Fox News and a shotgun. I'm good. You know
yeah,
what I
she's
mean?
gonna be just fine.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she's And by the way, anytime someone says "Saving the Day," I get that song from Ghostbusters.
Saving the day.
Thanks,
Yeah, every time. Yep.
Also-
What's that?
I was just gonna say the cabinet for the Starfighter game is fucking humongous.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's never had like an actual release as the game that it was. The closest, I guess, it was released as Solaris on the 2600, the Atari 2600, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's a fan game. Someone made an actual game, so it follows the one from the movie, and
That's
then they
cool.
made their own cabinet to fill. So you can download the executable for the game, which plays like a Dragon's Lair. You know what I mean?
Oh,
okay.
okay. I gotcha. Okay.
He's not actually piloting anything, which is why I need two sticks. You know what I mean? It just looks cool.
Yeah.
He's literally just shooting around 360, but it's pre-rendered sequences, so it plays more like that.
Right.
It did there was an NES released on this.
Oh, there
but
was?
It was basically I own the game, but it's
Of
not.
course
It
you
wasn't
do.
even originally meant to be a Last Starfighter game. It was just one of those that like
It was
after
a
the
branding.
fact they kind of rebranded it and just
Oh, I
slapped
gotcha.
the Starfighter name on it. But,
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, the posters for Last Starfighter look really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. It's got cool aesthetic all over the place. Just some other fun facts I found, and of course, anybody chime in with their own as well. I guess Robin Williams was offered the role of Zur,
Oh.
so that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
And supposedly Will Wheaton is in this movie.
Yeah.
his scenes were cut.
Yes. But I guess he's still technically in it. Like he's running around in the very beginning in a red jersey or something, and then he's in the background at the very end. Like he's kind of out of focus, but he's behind Lewis or something.
I think he's still credited though, even though his scenes were cut.
He might be. I didn't pay attention to the credits. He might be though. Trying to look at other stuff here. When after they use,
friend.
huh?
He was Lewis's friend.
Oh, okay. So he's probably selling him the Playboys. When Griggs restoring the power to the Death Blossom. What?
He just has. Hold on, I gotta think of. You gotta power right through here. All right, Will Wheaton. Imagine if he opens it up like in the Mandalorian. I'm not spoiling, but like every movie they open up like an armory. They open up
Yeah.
the chest drawer and it's just this league of weapons. Will Wheaton opens up the armory and it's just and he's schooling him. He's like, "This is the whatever. This is the
This is the Marilyn Monroe.
And then Lewis, he just goes around telling everyone like he actually knew that shit. When someone tells you about a movie and you just tell everyone like you actually saw it, but you don't. Like,
Yeah.
and Wheaton's like, man, fuck your kid doesn't know anything about fucking Playboys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's great. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good shit right there.
That makes sense. I don't know. Just some other
I
little.
could do this all day, folks.
Yeah. Another little thing after the Death Blossom and Greg's trying to fix shit, you can see like pieces of what a 9-volt battery would connect to sticking out of the thing.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Yeah.
That's space age, sure. Yeah, I mean that's I don't know if anybody's got any other fun facts or stuff. That's about all I've got. But it's a good
I do.
movie.
I like how Beta Alex just like sacrifices himself.
He didn't
because-
need to. He really could have just jumped out.
He could have jumped out. He could have jumped out. But I do like how there's a story there. Like we got to kill this assassin because he's going to relay back to them to be like, hey, he's not on. There's a star. That's the whole thing. Stealth is like a major play in this movie.
Mhm.
The minute that Grig and Alex were to be found out by any of these assassins or other opposing ships and stuff like that, it would ruin their whole plan. So there's always like that's why they have to chase the ships into like the asteroid. I guess caverns is what it is, and they have to make sure to kill them.
Yeah.
Beta Alex is like, we got to kill that assassin, otherwise, we're effed. And I like things like that where, we got to make sure because otherwise we're screwed. I mean, at the end of the movie, yeah, the Alex and Grig they destroy them. They destroy the Zur Armada and all that stuff, and because of the Death Blossom, that was pretty cool. I like that.
But this sequence where the beta unit kills himself, and if I remember right, the girlfriend looks up to the sky and she's like, "Oh, Alex, wherever you are." The reason why this movie really works the most, man, is the fucking score is so good.
Yeah,
like Craig Stefan's
good.
theme, and it plays. It's one of those classic themes that can be played triumphantly or romantically, and it's like it's got this sweeping moment where she's like looking up at the sky, and then it cuts to Rogan, you know what I mean? And it's just like, and the music's timed perfectly. Like it's that.
Yeah, I do really like the theme.
If it didn't have that music, I would have seen Bachelor Party 3 times that day.
Yeah.
Do not underestimate the power of the score of this film.
Yeah, it's really good. Like I said, like I've said before, like I didn't grow up with it, but I can respect the movie as for what it is now. And again, we've talked about it already, but it is astounding that Hollywood remakes everything, but they haven't been able to get their hands on this one yet because Nick Castle's like, nah, give me that money.
You keep seeing stuff about it though. Like I didn't get a chance to look it up. I had started Googling it, but there was some stuff that came out like as recent as like this past year, I want to say.
It was Gary Whitta.
Oh, for the sequel?
So he did the original treatment for Rogue One. He's a good writer, but they were putting together something like a show or something at Netflix or something. But what he did is he went and put a bunch of concept art everywhere.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
And for me, I was telling Chris, I think we were just shooting on the phone about it, and I was like, look, they're trying to do the Deadpool maneuver, where they can rouse up internet support for this, because they believe me, they don't just show shit. You know what I mean? We're working on this. Like, they don't. That is like the Hail Mary,
Yeah.
So
they could easily do it. Make a little Lewis.
I think he was working with one of the original writer of the movie as well.
I hope they get better writers. Like as much as I love the movie, like it's not the best, screenplay ever.
I think because it goes back and forth so much, and there's some like long, not drawn out, but it definitely has its lull moments.
Yeah, I think they have a good foundation, and they just need to tweak it up a little bit. But again, like Sketch said, the production got cut a year early. Their budget was, I don't think $15 million was a whole lot, even back in 1984. But
no, it was supposed to be closer to $30 million. Like it was going to be on par with Star Wars. Like I think Jedi was like $40 million or something like that. So it was going to be much higher. They just cut. They literally, and it was all the Cray stuff. So someone at Universal is like, we were spending way too much on this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also shocked too that there were no toy deals for this movie.
Yeah, very marketable.
And I really think that at the time, like this was the same year that Transformers hit. I remember that, and Ghostbusters had come out that year, that summer around the same, I can't remember if it was earlier or later. I'm hazy on the times. This may have been more like a May release, if I remember right. So it was before Ghostbusters, but there was nowhere to get that ship anywhere. There was nowhere to get, the bald-headed dudes. I imagine I would have been the unlucky kid where I just had all the Codan Armada dudes, because they would have been at an Alpha Beta, like store, fucking in that toy rack, next to the Constructicon that no one wanted.
Mm-hmm. What's crazy is episode 4 of Star Wars had a budget of $11 million, and then episode 5 had a budget of $18 million. So Last Starfighter is kind of like in the middle there, and I don't know, maybe just
they probably saved like $5 million.
Also, what other movies came out in '84? Were there other things besides Bachelor Party and
there was nothing else?
So maybe it was like a situation with like that's I always bring it back to The Thing, because The Thing came out the same year as E.T. And
came out the same week as E.T.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
And
E.T. and then The Thing, you know, like it was.
And everyone was like, "Screw this movie! This movie's gross," and all that other stuff. But I don't know. Maybe it was a good movie, but maybe it just wasn't in the right time at the right place. Because I feel like this movie should have done a lot more than it did.
Having been at a theater where it was packed, that theater was packed that day. No one was in The Last Starfighter. Everyone was in Star Trek 3 and Bachelor Party.
Yeah, I've seen Star Trek.
So Star Trek 3 had to be the thing that sucked all the air out the room, you know, with Christopher Lloyd as a shitty Klingon. You know, and it was just, I just remember as a kid going, I liked the Starfighter movie, you know? And I didn't want to see it. I wanted to see Star Trek 3. So I didn't even know about the film when I was a kid. When we went to the theater, my uncle dragged me to it.
Oh, then maybe it was advertising and stuff like that. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's a shame, because this movie, at the time it came out, it should have done a lot better than it did. Because then, go ahead.
Did He-Man came out in '84? Was that like an '82?
Yeah, He-Man did, Terminator, like we said, Ghostbusters.
But I'm talking like for kids, like He-Man,
there's
Transformers.
Never-Ending Story. I mean, that's kind of for kids, but it's not so much sci-fi as it is fantasy.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like in terms of what took the Transformers.
Oh, for
G.I.
toys,
Joe,
yeah.
And He-Man took up all the fucking.
He-Man, the cartoon came out in '83.
'83. So the toys were in full effect by '84.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah,
maybe a victim of circumstance a little bit.
Stuff, though. There was a comic book, like a 3 or 4 issue
Marvel
comic book tie-in, and then it did get some merchandising stuff. Like there's a lunch pail floating around there these days. So there
a
are
scratch and sniff sticker.
Yeah, and it had a
Snow
bunch
Moose
of,
is porn. You know
those
what I mean?
cool-ass
A snow
bunch
globe.
of pails that you could get. That I think I remember. I had like a GI Joe or He-Man, one of those.
I guess there was
that made those.
I guess there was an unreleased
Globe?
toy line too. It just never happened.
Dude, the car, the ship, you know what I mean? The Kodan ship, like the fact that there just wasn't even like model kits for that stuff.
Yeah, models would have like made bank from this.
Mm-hmm. Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
I don't know about
I don't
bank.
know.
I'm not going to models would have solved the problem. You know what I mean? Some Universal exec who picked up this podcast. These fucking guys. I don't know what the
Get these guys in here. That guy knows about Bachelor Party, and we're ready to make more sequels.
Yeah.
But overall, I like the movie. Like I said, I don't have the I don't have the diehard loving of it that Chris does, but I think it's a good, solid movie. It's kind of underrated. Like I say, underrated gem, even though sometimes I hate saying that. But yeah, you should go check it out. I feel like it does get kind of swept under the rug sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so the movie ends, and I guess Alex and Maggie decide that they're going to leave and go into outer space and continue their lives. And
Lewis is famous. He goes, "You hear that, you slimes? I'm famous."
Yeah.
What a great kid.
Well,
the thing is,
Knox like Alexander Knox from Batman.
He's an
You know
asshole.
what I mean? Like, kind of looks like him too.
Yeah.
He does have a little bit of that like 30s. Like he's way more wittier than a kid of his age would have been.
Yeah, like almost Corey Feldman kind of douchery kind of.
The great value, Corey.
But you could even say, like, going on to the the idea of a sequel, because Lewis basically starts his training as he sees his brother like leaving the planet.
Yeah.
He runs over to the Last Starfighter arcade machine and starts training. So I mean, you could even say is like maybe the next movie follows Alex or something, and because I mean, there's still stuff going on out there. Like the whole war and everything isn't resolved. Like there was just this one little skirmish that they were triumphant in, but there's a lot more. Like they're gonna have to rebuild everything because they lost all the starfighters. They're gonna have to recruit more. There's a lot to go on if you just want to do more like world building type stuff.
That's the thing. The sequel should be like super gritty because it should have both of these storylines. Okay, so let's Alex and Maggie are high school sweethearts. I guess you could say. How many high school?
I guess they're just out of high school or something.
Yeah.
You mean their relationship, right? Yeah.
Yeah. How many of those stay together after like the first year after high school? Like you're gonna have that
after
stuff going on.
After high school, Ralph Macchio, that movie came out that year. They didn't last the night of prom, right? Like you get to Karate Kid 2, And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it didn't last one fucking week, dude. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you've got that storyline in the sequel. Then you could also have like not Alex, but Lewis. He's just trying to get that high score so he can get up there. So maybe there's like, but he can't get it. He's just not as good as Alex. So maybe there's some like resentment there or something like that, and he becomes the anti-Starfighter.
I think the story arc is young Billy Mitchell cheats him out of his high score. You know what I mean? And then they take Billy Mitchell, and he becomes the fucking grandmaster. You know what I mean? And
he's got the hairline and the forehead to do it.
And he'll be the new like villain, and we'll just call him like the king of the shit lords or something.
The king of Khan. The thing is, we don't tell him he's in a movie though. Kind of like
the king of Kodan. You know what I mean?
There you go. The king. He doesn't know he's in a movie, and he's just acting like he normally does. So.
They all wear sublimated American flag T-shirts. You know what I mean? Like all the they eat hot sauce and shit.
This is just this whole podcast is just tangents.
And they can all work.
Patton Oswalt made a whole thing out of tangents. You know what I mean? And, you know,
that's
and
true.
it might come true one day. Like so,
Red Letter Media does it too. So,
and we can too. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the Last Starfighter. We've all said it's just a feel good sci-fi movie. It's definitely a family movie.
It's a Sunday afternoon movie.
yeah, it doesn't get too intense, but it's not completely boring. I don't know. I'd take it over some sci-fi
kids
stuff.
With it if they're being bad.
What?
At home, I do. And if because they hate this movie because I make them watch it so much, and so there'll be times where they're fighting and arguing over something. I'm like, all right, if you guys don't stop, I'm making you sit down and watch The Last Starfighter with me. And I've done it before on at least 2 or 3 occasions, and they're super pissed. They're crying, and
you're gonna make them hate it. They're gonna be the ones with the make the score go down on IMDb when they get older because they're just gonna keep posting reviews.
That's all they're gonna do.
My dad abused me with this movie.
The Critics series too. It stinks because my dad likes it.
It still stinks.
Yeah, or Lights, Camera, Jackson garbage. Yeah, I don't know. Does anybody have anything else to really say about The Last Starfighter other than go check it out?
I haven't said enough, you know.
We gave you your 2 hours to shine, or whatever.
As much as this is a movie that you could use as punishment for children, it's it's nowhere near as bad as Iron Eagle 2. Let's just be honest. You know, like that's a true punishment. No, look, this movie, I stand by it. Like, if people like to give rose-colored glasses to nostalgic films from their childhood, and Tron is one of those. I mean, Black Hole's getting a resurgence now because everyone's got Disney Plus. I'm like, go see Black Hole. I'm like, look, not a great film.
Flight of the Navigator.
Above that, and I do believe the tone of The Last Starfighter isn't that far off from a typical MCU film.
No, not at all. Like, you got the beats.
Yeah, you got the beats, and you got the beats, I know, right?
It was in everyone's head.
God damn it.
When are we going to do Fast Times at Ridgemont High, our podcast on that one? Because I can talk about 3 hours.
It's depressing, though. You know, like, this is a feel-good movie. I think if there's any complaint I can make, given the time it came out, was 1, no toys, 2, there really weren't any other games. You know what I mean? Like, it was trying to play into the Pac-Man gamer culture at the time, too. And it was like, we can use the arcade person, the arcade hero as, like, the sword in the stone. But you never go to an arcade.
Right.
You never really see that culture personified. There's no... It's stuck in that one little...
Right.
That one little area. And so, you don't also... And, again, you don't really know... other than Alex wants to leave the town, what his real motivation is. Like, are you supposed to take her with you to college? Like, how's that? Come on.
That didn't make sense either. That's right.
So I don't know how you solve those are the movie to me is a series of solving problems from a budgetary standpoint. Like, how do we do this small? We got to make it small and keep it in one area because we got all these visual effects. And so there's a lot of problem solving in the script that I commend them for. But it doesn't, like, when you look at it, you're like, why don't they, at least have that scene, like, even in the Lost Boys where they come into the town from somewhere else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't, where is Rogan? Did Rogan's dad just leave him and the kid?
Why he was in the photo. Yeah.
Yeah, was his dad, recruited back, when Pong came out or some shit? Like, I don't know, and then you don't really know why everyone hates if everyone hates Centauri, because everyone there goes, he's a shyster and a scamster, and I'm like, why do you let him into your military headquarters? I think the one thing that was
desperate
missing
times
from the guys who wrote the movie was they never signed up to the military, I don't think. So, and Chris will understand this, not like a shisty recruiter, like always signing up people who aren't fucking qualified to be in the military to meet a quota, and like I think that would have been more of like the route I would have, it's there, but it could have been even more there. Like these are just guys trying to meet a quota because there's a war to build, to fight, and you never see any of the other war, not even in like, I don't know, some weird montage of scenes or, this was
right.
Like a poster battle, like when you go to Star Tours, there were all those like destination posters. They can go to Tatooine. They could have been like the Battle of something, and remember the Battle of and then the guy's missing a limb. Yeah, that was fun. Like
yeah,
war made me the man I am today, the Starship Troopers guy.
I almost feel like maybe it was because at the time people didn't really want to talk about Vietnam. Like we were kind of trying not to bring that shit up, and so. I wonder what the pushback was in a lot of fronts. A lot of this doesn't exist today. The problems I think they would have found don't exist today, which is why the premise of all the Star Wars knockoffs there were, this is the one whose premise can be made today. Given esports and everything else that's out there, if you set it in the modern day, it can still be done.
It's going to be a goddamn YouTuber, though.
What if it's our favorite dude? What's it? The guy with the... our favorite guy with the
Are you talking about Keith Apicary?
Yeah, what if it's Keith Apicary? Keith Apicary. And then they're just like, you got Simple Jack to save us, man. Like
he does the dance like when he gets to the the headquarters for the first time. It just breaks out in like a dance montage.
You see, there's always creative casting, folks. I'm telling you, it's the key to every film.
I definitely think in an age where Hollywood is seemingly can never come up with any type of interesting ideas, so they just remake everything. I think this has the, like you were saying, Sketch, is there's all the stuff there to come in with a really interesting story and be able to show this universe and tell the story in a contemporary way that just they weren't able to do it back in the day for budget reasons or any number of reasons why they weren't able to do it, but they can flesh it out, and I think there's enough interesting world there that I think it would be amazing. So for me personally, I'm all for it. There are certain there's certain movies that I don't want them to go back and redo because I'm afraid they're going to ruin it. But this is not one of them. This is one where I think that they could go back and redo, and if done well, could be amazing. And I think
I don't advocate redoing. I think you can make a sequel in the
That's what I'm saying.
Runner 2049 was a sequel, but you don't even need any of the original people, I don't think.
For me, I would never want them to do another Willow movie because I'm afraid they would just fuck it all up.
It's coming, bro.
And I mean a sequel, not a remake. I don't think that it needs a sequel. I think this movie deserves a sequel, and I would love to see that.
I agree. I would love more Last Starfighter. The last Starfighter. Just make it Star Wars.
Last Starfighter.
It's going to come out, and they're going to be like, well, the kids nowadays are going to be like, well, what happened to, what is this? This is based off of something else? We're going to get that tweet at us like, did you guys know that this was a movie? I'm like, no, didn't know, man.
Kids won't care. They'll be too busy playing Fortnite, No. And as for The Last Starfighter, I mean, come on, The Last Jedi, now you got another movie coming out. No, everyone knows the title's the title. I just want my Hot Toys fucking, if I ever bought one Hot Toy, it would be the ship. It would be a Gunstar. That would be the one thing I could pull that one off. An actual Gunstar would be dope in that docking position.
Then Chris would borrow it, and he'd be like, "Check it out, the Death Blossom." No.
Hot Toy ships with a working Death Blossom.
Why didn't I label the button?
The Japanese are too good. Stop.
Oh boy. But yeah.
There it is.
On that note.
That's the Last Starfighter. This has been the sideshow. As we mentioned, got myself mixed up. But yeah, this has normally been released to only patrons, and more recently to Twitch subscribers, but now we're going to make this available to the public. However, starting with this episode, patrons and Twitch subs, you guys are getting it earlier than the public, so thank you so much for your support. But thank you also to everyone that just listens in general. You'll get this on the regular podcast feed. But again, I've been Scotty Moe. With me today has been Sketchraft.
Hey, I'm out of here.
And also our Corey.
I'm going to hang out with Greg. See you guys later.
Oh, nice. And finally, he's probably doing the Death Blossom every chance he gets. That's Chris.
See you later.
All right, and we're up, over, and gone. Thank you so much, guys. This has been the Sideshow from the Shitlord's planet. I want to see that planet.
We need to talk Keith Apicary into making up a Death Blossom dance where he just goes batshit crazy. And it's the Death Blossom. I got his email. I'm fucking.
He could legit go all day with this stuff, can't he?
Yeah.